Okay, let's dive right in. So many of us struggle with how to handle manipulative people. But what if the best playbook for setting healthy boundaries with real wisdom and peace was actually written 2,000 years ago? Today, we're going to see how the life of Jesus gives us this incredibly powerful model for doing exactly that.
I mean, have you ever walked away from a conversation just feeling twisted around? You feel confused, maybe a little guilty, and just completely drained? If that sounds familiar, you are so not alone. It's exhausting, and it leaves you wondering how you can possibly respond with both strength and grace. That's the exact problem we're tackling.
So let's get on the same page. The word narcissism. It feels super modern, right? Like it's straight out of a psychology textbook. But here's the thing. The behavior itself, it's as old as time. The Bible actually diagnosed this same heart condition long before it ever had a clinical name.
So, what are we really talking about? Well, in modern psychology, it boils down to this: an overblown sense of self-importance, a bottomless pit of need for admiration, a real inability to feel for other people, and of course, a habit of manipulating others. This gives us a really clear framework for what we're looking at.
Okay, now let's hop in a time machine and go back a couple thousand years. Listen to how the Apostle Paul described things. He painted a picture that is shockingly similar, warning about a time when people would become obsessed with themselves, proud, boastful, loving pleasure more than anything else. See? This isn't some new issue, it's a timeless human struggle.
And this chart just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? What we call an inflated ego today, the Bible just straight up calls being a lover of themselves. Our term, manipulative, it lines up perfectly with treacherous and deceitful. It's the exact same behavior, just with different labels. Which brings us to the most important question. How did Jesus himself handle people who acted this way?
All right, let's look at strategy number one that Jesus used. We see it so clearly whenever he deals with the Pharisees. They really embodied a kind of spiritual narcissism, using their religion not to get closer to God, but to control and dominate other people.
Now, this is super important to get. Their questions, they were never sincere. Not once. They were verbal traps, plain and simple. Every single conversation was a game designed to make Jesus look bad and to puff up their own status in front of the crowds.
So how does Jesus respond? Does he play their little word games? Absolutely not. He refuses to get drawn in. Instead, he cuts right through the noise and confronts them directly, publicly, with authoritative truth. He calls out their hypocrisy, looking so good on the outside, but being rotten on the inside. That's not being passive. That's setting a powerful boundary.
But a direct verbal confrontation wasn't his only move. In fact, sometimes the most powerful thing Jesus did was say nothing at all. This is the incredible strategy of strategic silence.
Okay, so picture this scene. Jesus is dragged before King Herod. And Herod, he's not looking for truth. He's not looking for salvation. He's looking for a show. He's heard the stories and he wants a private magic trick to feed his massive ego.
And what does Jesus do? In the face of all these questions from a king, a powerful ruler, he says absolutely nothing. He just stands there in complete silence. And that silence, it was the loudest possible answer.
And here is the genius behind that move. Manipulative people, they thrive on getting a reaction out of you. Anger, fear, defensiveness, it doesn't matter. They feed on that energy. Jesus understood this perfectly. By refusing to engage, he literally starved Herod's ego. This wasn't weakness or passivity. This was a masterclass in spiritual authority.
Okay, strategy number 3. This one might hit a little closer to home for a lot of us, because it's all about setting boundaries with people we actually love. We see this play out perfectly between Jesus and his own disciple Peter. So Jesus starts explaining his true mission, that he has to suffer and die. And Peter, proudly out of genuine love and concern, just freaks out. "Never, Lord!" He's trying to protect Jesus, but he's doing it based on his own fear, his own human ideas of what should happen.
And Jesus' response? Wow. It is immediate. It is sharp. There is no sugarcoating here. He says, "Get behind me, Satan." He identifies the spirit behind the words, the one trying to pull him off his divine mission, and he shuts it down hard. He sets an unbelievably clear boundary.
But, and this is so important, he corrected the behavior without rejecting the person. This wasn't the end of their friendship, not even close. He continued to teach Peter, to invest in him, and ultimately to restore him completely. It's a perfect picture that true, courageous love confronts what's wrong. It doesn't just enable it.
Okay, so we've looked at these incredible strategies: confrontation, silence, loving boundaries. How do we pull all of this together for our own lives? How do we actually find that path to peace today?
You know, there's one last really sobering example we have to look at: Judas. Jesus knew Judas's heart all along, but he didn't spend all his time and energy trying to fix him. He loved him, yes, he even washed his feet. But in the end, he had to release him to the consequences of his own choices. That shows a divine strength in knowing when to let go.
I mean, think about that moment at the Last Supper. Jesus knows exactly what's about to happen. And his words to Judas, "What you are about to do, do quickly," that's not him giving in to manipulation. That's him showing he's still in control of his own peace, surrendering only to the Father's plan, not to the chaos at his table.
So what's our practical game plan? It all starts with step 1, discernment. You got to look past the charming words and pay attention to the actual fruit of their actions. Step 2, set clear boundaries. Learn to say no with calm truth without feeling guilty. Step 3, use strategic silence. Realize not every fight deserves your energy. And finally, step 4, learn to love people without enabling their destructive choices.
If you walk away with just one single thought today, please let it be this. This is so freeing. Setting healthy boundaries is not unchristian. It's not a failure of love. It is profoundly Christ-like. It's an act of spiritual maturity that Jesus himself modeled for us. And that really brings us to the heart of it all. Because here's the thing, your goal isn't to change them. You can't. Your real goal is to stay Christ-like in how you respond. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what is one boundary that you need to set in truth and in love this week?